Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and the offseason from the heavens, it continues. After some very exciting additions, the Dolphins began phase one of their offseason program on Monday, with players entering the building ready for Mike McDaniel to start implementing his vision. Now look, we have a long road till the fall, but there is plenty to get into before the Hard Rock fills up. And based on these early season ticket projections, I have a feeling it's going to get loud come September. Today, we're going to talk about the most divisive element surrounding the Miami Dolphins. That's 24-year-old quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Has he been the savior that was promised only a few years ago? No, not yet. But is he a mediocre passer with serious limitations and a low ceiling? I mean, that's what many national pundits think, and it's also what some Fin fans believe themselves. Let's set the record straight, so strap up and let's dive in. Tua Tagovailoa will be entering his third season in the NFL. And let's go back in time a little bit, because who was he as a prospect coming out of Alabama? Simply put, experts across the board touted him as one of the most NFL-ready passers to enter the league since Andrew Luck. No one believed him to be this dynamic athlete, dual-threat quarterback. No, he was respected due to his pinpoint accuracy. From a skill set perspective, Tua had amazing footwork, really good pocket presence, as well as touch on all of his passes all over the field. Deep shots, short dump-offs, intermediate routes, he had touch. But the main concern with him was not his talent, not his arm strength, injury issues. He struggled with health at Bama, requiring multiple surgeries and missing chunks of time while rolling with the Crimson Tide. The expectation was, if you draft Tua, put him in a good system, solid pieces, then he should help elevate the entirety of the offense and become that surgeon on the field. His comp coming into the league was that of Drew Brees or Steve Young. In my opinion, though, his skill set is far more a hybrid of both. Although he does possess elite accuracy, Drew Brees' understanding of the game and ability to place the ball in the best spot for his receivers time and time again does put him at another level. Tua is not there yet, but it's a level he can reach. But again, he is nowhere close right now. Unlike Brees, however, Tua is more athletic. He can tuck it and gain yards when necessary. Just ask the Jets. Now, look, he's not as fast as Steve Young. I really think that comparison comes because they're kind of smaller stature and they're lefties. But that element of his game, being able to create and salvage a potentially busted play, it's something that we have not seen from Uno so far in his young career. Look, we all know the story. Miami drafts him 5th overall, 4 spots behind Joey B, 1 spot ahead of Justin Herbert. He comes in, still recovering from his major hip injury, and look, he started prematurely. That's something that we know for a fact in hindsight, because physically, Tua was nowhere ready to go on the field. But for reasons beyond our understanding, he was thrown out there to start against Aaron Donald and the Rams. It's almost like the coach wasn't wanting him to succeed. But if you recall, he did win that game, led by the defense, absolutely smothering Jared Goff and company. That was a fun game, and really kind of the start of that fun 2020 season. We know, though, that it was premature for Tua, thanks to his very outspoken trainer, Nick Hicks from Perform. He came out last offseason emphatically stating that although Tua played and had nice moments, he was nowhere near to being fully there from a health standpoint. But let's not get confused here. Him needing time to recover from the hip injury was not only a known issue prior to him being drafted, but it also makes sense given the nature of that injury. That injury was the same one that Bo Jackson had, the one that ended his career, one of the greatest athletes of all time. So it makes sense that a smaller statured quarterback needs more time to recover. As a rookie, when he was thrust in before being there 100%, we did see nice things, right? The accuracy that we were told about was there. He took care of the football, and he ran the offense more or less like a true game manager right off the bat. Then entering last season, there were hopes that he would take a big leap. Now, I do think he improved, but due to circumstances around him, it's hard to tell if you only look at that box score, which it seems all these national guys are doing. He never truly took over a game the way we want him to, the way true franchise quarterbacks do, but the elements of a superstar quarterback, they're there on tape. As a result, a lot of people have decided to plant their flag in the ground and state Tua Tagovailoa is an average to below average quarterback. Some flat out say he's just bad. Now, let's educate some of y'all. Have people learned nothing since the end of the season? The element around Tua's struggles that it feels like no one's paying attention to, the element perhaps that's more important than his shit offensive line, coaching. Tua had no support from his coaching staff. No player, let alone a young quarterback, can become the best version of themselves when their coach is undermining them at every step. Brian Flores was sabotaging Tua. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not sure how he thought that would help his career and the team, but Flores was undermining Tua. From having Tua work with 3 offensive coordinators in 2 years, to having no clear offensive scheme or identity, to the lack of public support given, Tua was being set up to fail. Many quarterbacks have been put in positions like that, and most all of them fail. Yet, Tua outlasted his coach. Those in the building saw and knew what was going on, and they chose Tua over Flores. Like I said in the last episode, who was right in this will eventually be revealed. But for now, Ross and Greer chose the lefty from Bama. And not for nothing, but based on this offseason, watching Greer free from Flores' approach, it's a beautiful thing. Revamp the line, add elite weapons. He seems to know what he's doing. And if that's true, I like the fact that he chose Tua. I mean, come on, people. Remember the daily Deshaun Watson reports? We were fighting that stuff off every day last season. Not even every week. It was every day prior to the trade deadline. And you know where that was coming from. Not ownership, not Chris Greer. It was Brian Flores. He gave up on Tua and rather than try to maximize his ability, chose to play politics behind the scenes and try to force a trade for an alleged sexual predator. Flores single-handedly started this narrative on Tua by benching him twice his rookie season, benchings which, in hindsight, really weren't necessary and probably hindered his development and definitely tarnished his reputation. Not only was there no moral support given to him, the coaching around him was just not it. As a rookie, he had Chan Gailey, an experienced offensive mind, absolutely, but let's remember, he had been out of the league for years prior to coming back. He was retired. He ran an antiquated system, and it makes sense why an antiquated quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick, was able to run it way more effectively. Then, last season, right, we have hopes of that improvement, but under the care of George Godsey and Eric Studsville, it's hard to see that improvement. We spoke of this on the previous episode, but there really was no identity for the offense last year, and that's not Tua's fault. Where do I blame Tua? It's the things that you expect out of a second-year quarterback, right? At times, he struggled to read the field. He wasn't nearly as quick getting off his first read as you would want, and he did seem to be slower in his progressions. Physically, I also wanted to see Tua run more, right? Take that easy yardage, but he rarely did so and really left first downs on the table. He decided to try to throw it, try to make a play when he could have just scampered 5 yards and gotten the first. These are all things that come with reps, come with time. These are not glaring issues that I'm like, oh my God, he's a bust. None of that showed up. But let's actually take a look at what he was working with. Why aren't we seeing this franchise-defining guy? Where is this jump that we've been waiting for? What does everyone say is a quarterback's best friend? A running game. Guess what Tua didn't have? A freaking running game. Miami's inability to get a push on the offensive line resulted in defenses feeling confident that they could play Miami light in the box, and instead, opponents would just flood the field with DBs. They're like, look, we know you're doing the RPO. Tua's pulling that, and if he doesn't pull it, you're getting 2 yards. We'll take it. 2nd and 8, we'll take it. And then we'll flood the field with defensive backs. As a result, Tua would be throwing on 2nd and 3rd and longs because he ain't getting anything on the ground game on first down, right? With 4 to 5 players in the secondary roaming the field, taking away his 2 to 3 options. Openings in the passing game, they were hard to come by, and aside from Jalen Waddle, there was no skill player who was really good at gaining separation. I think one of the main reasons we got rid of Devontae Parker, he's a good receiver, still upset that we sent him to New England, but relative to the system that's about to come in, relative to the modern NFL game, he does not separate. He does lead the league, I believe, since like 2018 in contested catches over the likes of Devontae Adams, over a DK Metcalf. But I think the reason he has so many contested catches is because they're all contested because he doesn't separate. We do know that Tua had a bottom 5 rushing attack, but surely if he's getting all the blame for Miami's offensive struggles, then you would assume, okay, you don't have a running attack, but if you suck, your offensive line and your protection must have been half decent, right? Miami had the worst, by a good margin too, pass protection in the league. The worst. Tua was constantly under duress, never getting time to sit back and actually survey the field, never get in a rhythm. And in those rare moments where he was given time, it was usually due to the defense rushing like 3 guys with 8 dudes in coverage, with your 2 guys out in routes. Not to mention the constant hurries and the hits that he was taking on every other pass attempt. It rushes your mental clock. It prevents you from getting comfortable. Freaking Brady, that's how you got Brady in his prime. I mean, you could argue he's still in his prime, but early on, how did you beat Brady? Early in the game, throw someone in his face. Once someone's in his face, he's rattled, he starts overthrowing, he gets jumpy in the pocket. If the greatest of all time gets affected by pressure, I would assume a young guy coming in the league also would too, not to mention it was the most pressure in the league. And yet he still put up respectable stats. Not good, not great, but definitely not bad. And considering his situation, I mean, come on, people. All that mayhem made putting consistent drives together near impossible. Most quarterbacks would not have had as high of a completion percentage. Most quarterbacks would have taken way more sacks, perhaps even gotten injured worse than Tua did when you got defensive ends screaming off the edge untouched. But no, our trooper, he stood in there, took the hits like a champ. Yeah, broke a few ribs here and there, but again, hard not to break ribs when a 275-pound man comes full blast right on top of you. He never complained. He never threw teammates under the bus. What Tua needs in order for him to thrive is protection, right? Not just from pass blocking, but protection with a scheme that allows him to get into a rhythm. And when I say protection, I already see some of the people in the comments like, oh man, why you can't admit that you're just making excuses for a guy who needs everything to be perfect. Every quarterback needs protection. Look at the quarterbacks in the playoffs. The only probable quarterback that you can say is Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow is kind of on a different level. And again, their passing weapons, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd, they're loaded. So it's easier when you have those stars. And if the fact that the Bengals having great receiving core and bad offensive line doesn't make you feel good about our situation, we've vastly improved our weapons on the outside. So even if our offensive line stays shit, we should still be better. If we get a jump from the O-line, watch out. Last season, Tua had Jalen Waddle. And aside from that, right, he had Mike Gesicki, who's a great piece, but he was completely misused by that coaching staff. Because if you remember last year, Gesicki would like dominate for a quarter or for a drive and then completely vanish. And it wasn't because the defense adjusted their coverage or Tua was failing to look in his direction. The play calling would just go away from him. Aside from those weapons, Miami had a bunch of guys who are serviceable to good, Devontae Parker, Mac Hollins, but those are guys who don't separate. So their routes tended to take longer to develop. And if you have good protection, that can work. If you're doing classic 5 to 7 step drops where you need these tall classic receivers on the outside to kind of get into their route, yeah, Mac Hollins and Devontae Parker are great. But when you have the least time to throw in the NFL, you need guys who will get open fast, right? And look, and again, like I said, that good protection allows it to work. But when you look at what Tua was dealing with, there's a reason his time to throw was so fast. There's a reason his yards per attempt was so low. Not because he's scared of throwing deep, because the system he was in forced his hand. The situation around him, the weapons, it forced his hand. There's a reason that Waddle broke the rookie record. Yeah, Tua is more comfortable with him, and that clearly was on display last year, but a lot of times, Tua just needed an outlet, someone to throw to, because there's a dude right in his face. And the only guy who could get that separation would be Waddle. Now, the Dolphins' offense right now looks completely different We spoke about the line, right, in the previous episode, the simple additions of Connor Williams and Teron Armstead. That will help immensely. But Miami still probably needs one more piece in order to really make me feel comfortable with the offensive line. I'm still nervous, but I'm looking specifically at J.C. Tretter. He would be a massive addition and elevate Miami's rushing attack even more. He was the center who helped Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt lead the Browns with an amazing rushing attack. So having a center like that in this scheme, that would be ideal. So an improved line, right, hopefully allows Tua a little more time in the pocket, and there should also be more lanes for running backs to use and gain respectable yardage instead of the 1 to 2 yards per carry that we were accustomed to seeing all of last year. Now, with speed guys like Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds coming out of the backfield, you hopefully should see defenses respect the run game more, but obviously that starts up front. That change, and it's going to change the look that Tua's going to see. There's going to be more open space if he gets a run game, of course, and gives more room to the skill players on the outside to get open. And on the outside, Miami has massively upgraded. The acquisition of Tyreek Hill will do wonders for Tua, and no, not because Tua has got to hit him 50 yards downfield, although I think we're going to see that multiple times this year, but the effect that Hill has on a defense, you can't really see it in a single stat. Firstly, just as a receiver, right? He is small, but given his speed, it changes the way that defenders have to cover him. It gives him space that a long wingspan never could. Because corners and safeties, they sit back. They don't want to get burned over the top. They're scared. And that cushion, it allows you to do a lot of things with him underneath, right? Bubble screens, quick slants. The door is open to get the ball in his hands because teams are like, look, we'll take Tyreek catching a 3-yard pass. We don't want him going downfield. The Chiefs' offense, right, may have looked vertical, which is why everyone's like, oh my God, Tyreek's a one-trick pony, and Tua can't even do that trick. This was a horrible move. But that wasn't all the Chiefs did. If you watch the highlights, it looked that way, but Andy Reid knew how to get the ball in his best player's hands. I foresee Mike McDaniel having a similar approach. Not only does his presence result in space on his side of the field, but if you have Tyreek run routes deeper into the field, then you see that impact even more for everyone else. Of course, he can take that 3-yard catch, turn it to 70, but that's not the main way that you want to use him. You want his routes creating conflict for defenders. If they're playing zone, right, have him run through multiple defenders' assigned areas, force them to make quick reads, quick decisions on whether they got to switch onto Tyreek, follow their current receiver, and normally, right, established corners and safeties, they know when to drop off. That's easy. But when you're dealing with the cheetah, you really start to second guess yourself. He's blazing across the field with so much speed and acceleration that corners have even less time to process and make that split-second decision on what to do. And that hesitation, it then opens things up, either underneath, over the top for another receiver. Now, I expect McDaniel to get way more creative than anything I can imagine. But suffice it to say, Tua has gained a weapon unlike anyone he's ever had before. And that kid has been throwing a Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. He knows speed. At least he thought he did until he starts training with Tyreek. Hill is only one player, though, and he can't be the sole focus of Miami's new offensive identity. A huge piece, yes, but not the only piece. And that's where the rest of the weapons come in. Waddle, Cedric Wilson, both possess great yak ability, and although Waddle is faster, Wilson is bigger. So his frame's going to allow Miami to utilize him in different ways in the red zone, as well as in more obvious passing situations where you want a bigger-bodied guy. Instead of the nearly exclusive RPO offense that we ran last season, I think Tua is going to be positioned for much better successes. If anything, right, I fear the defense could take a step back, but we'll get into that in a later episode. Offensively, though, things should improve dramatically. And not only is the personnel much improved, but the coaching staff is legit. Flores, for all his greatness as a defensive mind, he could not handle offense. We know this. He also only came from one place, New England, and that's where he spent his entire career. So when it came time to fill up a staff, he struggled mightily. He could not get forward thinkers who were pushing the envelope with new offensive play calls, with new ideas, and as a result, you saw a limited scheme with extremely conservative play calling. And I think that ties in with one of Tua's biggest knocks, right? The main issue some detractors have with Uno is that he seemed so far in his NFL career to come up small in the biggest games that he's been in. As a rookie, Week 17 against the Buffalo Bills, we win and we're in. Instead, the Fins got absolutely smacked by the Buffalo B team, and Tua did not play well at all. But to be fair, no one on the team really did that day. Then last season, Week 17 against the Titans, Miami needed the win in order to make their miracle playoff run continue. And instead, Tua had his worst game of the year, and the team got walloped. Now look, I'm going to posit a hypothesis. It's a little theory for why the kid who entered the national championship game as a freshman, cold-blooded, balled out, would then struggle against Ryan Tannehill and the Titans. Hear me out. If there's one thing that we have established following the Brian Flores era, it's that the man knew how to coach defense. We know this. As a result, though, his head coaching philosophy was very conservative. He didn't want to engage in 34-31 shootouts, back and forth offensive showdowns, the overall direction of the league right now. No, Flores wanted to beat you 16-10. He wanted to control the game, control the pace, and although Miami won more than they lost in his last 2 years, we rarely won big. It was either a close contested battle, hard fought, or Miami would end up smothering the opposing offense, resulting in a very bland offensive game plan. So in games that did count, games where you needed Tua and the offense to step up, Flores, he coached scared. He didn't trust his offense whatsoever, and as a result, his players played scared. They could feel the lack of confidence in them. They could feel that they were only being asked to just don't lose the game, right? From the play calling. The way that it was so conservative that they were not wanting to lose the game rather than letting their offense go out and win it. And the overall demeanor of Flores on the sidelines, and you could also see the overall approach of coaching scared in the game plan. Instead of trying to highlight his young quarterback's skill set, Flores would seemingly coach around his deficiencies. And all that does is enhance your deficiencies and allows for opposing defenses to lick their chops and hone in. They're like, okay, you're pretty much telling us the blueprint of how to beat him, rather than throwing in new wrinkles. Flores never, ever thought outside of the box when it came to offensive football. He was still thinking he was on the Patriots staff in 2006. That's how we ran offense. Now, Mike McDaniel, Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator, you actually have established offensive minds. Coaches who aren't scared of their offense, but instead understand that their success is rooted in that side of the ball in this modern NFL. The Dolphins are going to go into the season with an identity. It might not hit immediately. We'll get to that point when we do, but there will at least be an identity they're striving for, a specific way in which they want to attack defenses. Of course, the scheme's going to be adjusted week to week, fitted for a specific opponent, but they're not going to be coaching offense scared. They won't be on the defensive harping on complimentary football every single week. No, they want the offense to take command of games. That style of play, aggressive, attacking, that's what Tua grew up in at Alabama. He found himself tied to a coach in the NFL who was scared of aggressive offenses and instead preferred low-scoring, defensive fights, games he felt he could control. That's from a defensive perspective. So what are my expectations now for Tua coming into this season? Truthfully, I think he's going to elevate himself into another level. Not elite, not even great, not yet. But by the season's end, all these clowns saying Tua can't throw deep, you can't win with Tua, they're going to be shutting the hell up. It's frustrating, right, that we have to wait so long for the comeuppance of these people, but I promise you, Dolphins Nation, it is coming. Tua is extremely intelligent, works harder, as much as Brian Flores leaking to the media might not make you believe, but he does work hard, accurate passer. So put him in a system which relies on the quarterback to get the ball out of his hands and to his playmakers, then watch him cook. And now that we actually have legit playmakers, it will be cooking. And if you're able to execute on those more short and intermediate routes, coupled with a strong running game, then the deeper shots come. Like we've said before, deep throws are not purely a product of a big arm. They have to be set up throughout the game with the play calling, with the flow of the game, lulling the defense to sleep. You got to do that in order to take your shot. And it's hard to lull a defense to sleep when they've been knocking your offensive line unconscious, play in and play out. With these weapons now and the improved offensive line, Tua has nearly all the help he needs to become that better version of himself. And listen, You can call me biased. You can say only Dolphins and Tua fans believe this. Sure, you can think that, but it's not true. Nick Saban thought he was special. Brian Daboll thinks he's special. Tyreek Hill felt confident in him, as well as, he definitely felt confident in him because he could choose to go to Miami or the Jets, and the Jets have a very talented young quarterback, Zach Wilson, right? A young gun with a cannon of an arm. That's one thing for sure you cannot knock Zach Wilson on. He's got the arm for the NFL. But Tyreek said, I've seen the film. I played against Tua when he was a rookie. I like what I see. I think we can make it work. And most importantly, Miami's new head coach also believes it. Mike McDaniel took this job with a purpose, to create a football team in his image, of course, but also to maximize Tua Tagovailoa. The moves made by the team only show that. Everyone out here trying to say that they're building it so that Tua has no excuses. I mean, I guess that's kind of the dumbest take ever. It's more like you're building a good team. So I don't really understand that. Or they're setting it up so they can make Tua look as good as possible so they look like they didn't screw up the draft pick. Again, that's not how NFL teams work. Miami had all the capital in the world to go out and get one of these big-name guys. If they wanted Russell Wilson, if they wanted Deshaun Watson, if they wanted any of these quarterbacks moving around, they had the capital to go and get them. Just look at what they did for Tyreek Hill, a wide receiver. But they decided to stick with Tua for a reason, because they see what I see. They see what a lot of you see, that in those moments when he is given time, given protection, he is able to dice you up. He is accurate. He doesn't get rattled. He stays confident in himself despite his coaching staff not feeling the same way. And now they've chosen him. They're allowing the team to move forward with him. Now we got to wait and see. If you guys want to doubt, you want to hear all this crap about how the first 2 years and Flores was really the only good thing about the Dolphins and Tua was holding them back, please go back and watch a game under Flores. Watch the offense. Tell me where this smart offensive play calling was that you're seeing. Tell me where this ingenuity that Tua was just fumbling and bumbling about. Where was it? Where was it? Because look, signing an experienced veteran backup, as much as everyone's like, Teddy will have this team. No, he's not. No, he is, of course, going to start in case of injury, but it's also going to help Tua develop those mental aspects of the game. Throwing a boatload of cash at Teron Armstead, adding Connor Williams, and of course, identifying weapons for Tua and Tyreek Hill, Chase Edmonds, Cedric Wilson, hell, even Alec Ingold. All these moves have pointed to one thing. This staff isn't looking to rebuild. They're not looking to make a team for the next quarterback. The Dolphins are looking to make noise. Right now, they've cashed in their chips, and they're ready to ball out. Chris Grier believes that this team is ready to compete, and I agree. These are all big moves. Money's being spent. Trades are being made. Picks are being sent away with Tua Tagovailoa at the helm. The staff believes in him. His teammates believe in him. I believe in him. And if you're on the fence, just take my word for it and believe in him. After all the bullshit that he's dealt with from things in and out of his control, he deserves our support at the very least. If he underwhelms, if he doesn't take that step, then I'll be the first right there with you to call him out. But I don't feel like he deserves to be called out based on the situation he's been in. I'm just being honest. I don't personally see a world where you give him this roster, an offensive-minded head coach, and he doesn't succeed. I just cannot wait to see what it looks like. And we'll get into more specific stat projections, touchdown interception predictions later in the season. But you can guess I'm going to be predicting a big leap, not only statistically, but just from the eye test. Now all I need, now that the offseason has really begun with phase one, now I need clips showing Tua launching bombs to Waddle to Tyreek. I cannot wait. It's going to be like porn. This is going to be a really fun offseason, and honestly, it cannot end soon enough. I need the fall to get here.
He's the quarterback.
Without
he's
a lot
the guy.
of these things.
You know what I mean?
Let him be the guy.
Because, that's what we need.
Would you like to see Tua stay?
Yeah, I would like to see Tua stay. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's a good guy in the locker room. He works hard. He's got an arm on him.
Oh, I already know. I told you before we sat down. I worked out I'm from Alabama. I go to the facility. I go on campus from time to time, and I worked out with him when he was a true freshman. This is when Calvin really and some of the other guys, Judy, they were still in college. I think this junior, senior year, and they wanted me to run routes. And so they were trying to get Jalen to come out there. They was like, man, teach us some stuff, blah, blah, blah. They couldn't find Jalen anywhere. So they was like, man, it's like, we just got a hold of Tua. And I was like, who? They said, yo, bro, they said he's the real deal. They said, honestly, they said if Jalen wasn't here, he would be our starting quarterback right now. I'm like, what? I said, as a true freshman? They was like, bro, just watch.
Right.
Bro, he came out there, dude. We was out there for about an hour and a half. Bro, he didn't miss a route. I corrected one adjustment, and that was on the bang 8, because when I ran on the bang 8, it's your 4th outside step. You know, that ball should be already gone as a quarterback. I mean, he doesn't play quarterback. You know, he throws.
I know quarterback.
But he knows, you know what I mean? He already knows, too. Like, on that 4th outside step on the bang 8, that ball should be halfway to you or right there in your hands.
Right.
And when I came out, I saw him throw it, and it was a little behind. And I said, Tua, I shouldn't see you throw that ball. That was the only correction I made. Ran that route again. Dude, I've never seen, as a true freshman, but I've never seen anything like it.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Timothy Ritchie, Brian Guger, and Chris, members of the pod and supporters of the show over on Patreon. Check that out. Links in the description, or head to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the support, and please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show, subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins, and remember, if you don't want to watch on YouTube, PhinsPod's available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and of course, continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram @PhinsPod. I hope you all have an amazing day, and until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.